Let's dive into that a little bit because I think that's a question that's always out there about where do the numbers come from. So I love that you sort of anticipated one of the number one questions that is, what's in ranked right now? What's not being measured right now? And, maybe this is the hopeful side of me, but are there things that you guys are looking at to add in later?
Right. So right now, ranked measures three stats and uses those to generate the change in rating points or rank points, or whatever you want to call it, RP, after a match. The first is your placement. Your placement being how many players are left alive at the time that you die. It can be measured in terms of individual placement, such as 1 out of 100, or a team placement, such as 1 out of 16, or something like that. Right now, we're using individual placement, and I'm sure we'll talk more about why this is later. But that's just for the sake of this, it's individual placement. Then you have kills, and you have assists. And importantly here, kills and assists are worth the same. So it doesn't matter whether or not you or your teammate gets the last hit, if you'll forgive the MOBA terminology. Both of you will get credit, the full credit, not just partial credit. So there's no competing between your own team for getting a kill. All that matters is, can you do it or not? Right? So the amount of survival points, or not survival points, the amount of placement points you get and the amount of kills plus assists you get are combined. That behind the scenes gives you what we call a performance number. We have an index of what kind of performance we expect of a bronze player, of a silver or gold player. And the difference between your actual performance and your expected performance is what tells our system whether you should gain or lose points and by how much. And this happens at the end of every match. Eventually, if you play enough games, what's going to happen is that you will reach a rank where you are capable of producing consistently the performance points that match that rank tier over time. And that's how the rating system works.
Gotcha. So let's dig into the kind of elephant, and you kind of alluded to it in the placement points, because I think if there's any piece of this that keeps coming up, whether it's a new player or it's a streamer who's been grinding the ranked mode, is this personal placement. And I think what it stems from is the idea that if I'm really a team player and ranked mode is limited to squads right now, and I make a play that makes my team have a much better chance at winning the game, meaning, you know what, I run into a compound to anchor it to try to secure that rotation, and I die doing that, but it lets my team get the information to go on and win the game or place high. Currently, your personal placement, you're getting a much lower score, even though your team goes on to win the game. So and again, I'm not trying to back you into a corner on this. I would anticipate that that's a much harder thing to calculate and figure out. But that's kind of the only, feels bad in the current ranked mode. And again, it's only been out for, a week now. So it's not like we've had a ton of experience with it. But can we talk about that personal placement versus team placement?
Of course. So to get it out of the way immediately, yes, we want to do team placements. We've always wanted to do team placements. Team placements are the way to go. Unfortunately, there are a few design issues and technical issues that need to be resolved before we can do team placements. And we do, in fact, have plans to launch team placements in some form by Season 8, and if it's not the perfect form, to continue moving forward to improve that system. However, let's talk about some of those issues.
I raised my arms in joy. I mean,
everyone, and there was much rejoicing. Yes.
Yes. No, I want to hear the details too, but it's like, I don't know, just hearing that's really exciting because it's like, it's the only feels bad. Like you see this amazing game on Twitch and then you see the person that made the thing happen is sitting there griping about not getting the team points. So it's awesome to hear that it's something you want to do. And now I want to know exactly what you have to work on, Maynard, to get it done.
So there are a few different when you're designing a system like this, you have to have a set of principles, sort of North Stars that you refer to when you're trying to make decisions and trying to choose what the best way is to go to solve a problem. What are the ideals that you hold that you want to not waver from? In our case, these were things like competitive integrity. We have had a long history of players with the survival title system where they may need that extra reinsurance of going overboard, of us showing that no, this is a skill-based rating system. It's not a progression system. Every aspect needs to be carefully tuned to reinforce the fact that this is not a system meant to be gamed or a way for you to cheaply get a rank or any of that. And so that comes into issue when you have things like team placements, where the immediate thought is, were you carried to your rank, right? Did you just find your highest ranked friend / paid for friend that you could, and then just chill while they conquered the whole server, maybe with hacks, maybe not with hacks, and then you find yourself at the top of the leaderboard? The integrity of ranked is very high on our priority list. So that was one immediate concern about team placements that we had to deal with. It's a concern that when stacked against other concerns, eventually turns out that we're willing to lay off a little bit, especially after the launch of ranked, where players have very clearly seen and understood that it's a skill-based rating system from their own experiences. We can pull back a little bit on being over-indexing maybe on that, but it was definitely one of the things at the forefront of our minds. Another large concern was the responsiveness and the experience of rank. You said you're at Gold 2 now, right? So I know
Yep.
you didn't place there because because full stacked teams of professional players on voice comms on live stream have gone on to win 5 games and gotten Gold 3. So that's I'm not trying to knock you, but I'm willing to bet you probably grinded up there a little bit.
Yeah. I put some time in, Maynard. I put
Right,
some
you
time.
put your time in. Because you put your time in, you know this experience, right? Going ranked. You have your intense game. You maybe you won really hard, maybe you got crushed, whatever the case. You hit exit the lobby, you go back, first thing you see immediately that post-game screen telling you, you got this placement, this kills assist, here's your RP change, this nice glorious like fat XP bar, like really fat XP bar that feels good to fill up and go down. And I done goofed, or you celebrate, right? It's immediate, it's responsive, you know how to change your play style the next time. If you won the game or you did well, you get to have that hoorah moment. Here's the thing. That only works because every single one of those stats, we know the instant you die. So, for example, say this was team placements, and you die and you leave. Your team is still alive, right? You go to the out game. What do? Do you show a modal, like a pop-up window that has incorrect information? That's obviously not going to happen. Do you show a modal that has, pending, come back in a half an hour, maybe? Like, that's even a step up from Survival Title, where if you remember, in Survival Title, you'd play a game, and you'd leave, and it wasn't until the game actually finished that record would ever appear, that your stats would update. Like, that's clearly not good as well, right? You have these immediate issues. So, how do you do team placements and then have that satisfying, accurate, immediate accurate notification of what your rank change was? So this is the other major design issue that we're working with. And we have ideas that we're pushing forward on how to deal with this. Things like, well, maybe if you spectate your team, as soon as you leave the game, at that point, whatever your team rank was when you left spectating, that's what you get. So if you watch the whole time, you get the full team placement. Or if you leave early, you get partial credit. Like, these type of things are the direction we're looking at. But that leads into the technical issue of that tech isn't there yet, right? Every action that occurs in the game, in order for what's called the out game to know what happened in the in game needs to generate these messages that it sends to a server that are accurate and up to date, and it needs to get from there to the out game in a matter of seconds before you get out of the loading screen in order for it to have that information. And right now, those logs, that pipeline of information, doesn't exist for this type of leave during spectate update scenario. And we're trying to get that in. We're seeing if it's feasible for Season 8. That's the direction that we look to be going in right now. But it just didn't exist in time for the launch.
Thanks for checking out this segment of the Winner Winner podcast. Be sure to check out the full show at youtube.com/xpmedianow or the audio-only version everywhere podcasts are downloaded.